Hi, I'm Paul Battaglia, and this is section 7.6. Right off the bat, I want my students to know a couple of things to make sure that the rest of the section goes smoothly. First off, I want them to understand what the concept of a square matrix is. We may have used the term before, but I want to clarify. So a square matrix is simply the one in which the number of rows and the number of columns is equal, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. The other thing I want them to really see is that notation can be very important. So when we refer to a matrix as an inverse and we say A, the superscript of -1, we don't want them to think that that means operationally 1 over A. So let's talk about how we would structure a lesson. Gabe and Brittany are here with me, and Gabe, talk to us a little bit about how you would put this lesson together for your students.
Sure. So I like to build off students' prior knowledge whenever I can.
Sure.
So after I introduce the idea of an invertible matrix, or the inverse of a matrix, I like to remind students that they already have this idea of what it means to be a multiplicative inverse.
Yeah.
So when talking about real numbers, students know that 2 times 1/2 is 1, and 1/2 times 2 is also 1.
Yep.
But in the case of real numbers, we have this commutative multiplication.
Right.
Where in matrices, we don't.
Can't do that,
so we
right?
can't just say, oh, a matrix A times B is the identity, so clearly they're inverses.
Right.
We also have to check that B times A is the identity
Agreed.
matrix.
Very, very important, yeah. Brittany, talk to us a little bit about a term that is going to pop up in the middle of this section.
All right, so when the students are solving for the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix,
Right.
where the determinant's coming up and solving for the determinant of that 2 by 2 matrix comes up. And so I like to stress to my students that this is a very important concept that will come up multiple times throughout the next sections.
Yeah, especially as we go and we solve systems of equations,
Yeah.
particularly, right? And the idea also is that we're not going to see just 2 by 2 matrices. I mean, the matrices will get larger, and so we're going to still need to look for the determinant as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I hope you found these tips helpful, that you find much success in section 7.6.